And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and happy to be back on. It is show number 98. We are just getting started school here, and lots happening. John, I got some background noise there. Something's going on at the house there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all good. That's our guest. We're going to welcome on here in a moment. That is John Rickert. He is a high school principal in, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Niskayuna, and he's also a professional sports agent. Looking forward to meeting him in just a few minutes here. But yeah, we're on the eve of school. It is September 3rd, and we're excited. We have some live viewers watching here. And as always, if you are watching live, we'd love to have a comment or a question for our guest today here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. I do want to thank today's sponsor, the Coaching and Leadership Journal. This is from my friend Dan Spanauer down in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is the September edition right here. I just got it last week. And sure enough, on the cover, he's got stuff about Labor Day, some quotes. But if this is the first time you're watching the program and or listening live on iTunes, it's great. It's got 7 pages of all kinds of great leadership and coaching stuff. It's got stories. It's got success tips. It's fantastic. It's called the Coaching and Leadership Journal. Dan will give a discount to ELB listeners. Type in the code Murata20 and you'll get 20% off for that. And I'll just share the one on the back here. And it says here, on this side, ways to recharge. Dan got some information here from success.com. And he just has some stuff about recharging. I'm going to ask John again. He's been a principal longer than I have, certainly in the teens years of being a high school principal. And it's important for us to recharge. Dan shares here, set up specific time slots when you don't work. Put yourself on a schedule. Listen to a podcast. Do yoga. Get enough sleep. Start off with meditation. Start the day with a positive affirmation. These are all things listed in the Coaching and Leadership Journal, September edition. I highly recommend it and certainly thank Dan and them for sponsoring the show. The name of that website is theleadershippublishingteam.com. So again, welcome to the program. It's show number 98. Pumped to be on. Pumped to start school again. The teachers were in today in New York, and the kids are coming tomorrow. But just really excited to kind of get back to the work. So again, I mentioned we have John Rickert coming on the program. He's a high school principal and he's a sports agent. And the opening theme for the today's show is, what are your outside passions, right? Us as school leaders, that job can envelop you. That job can take over your life. You know, it's important to have some outside passions that not only sharpen your saw, but they bring some different things to the table for you, right? I used to be a college basketball referee, and that helped balance some of the stuff I do. And now I'm doing a lot of outside work in addition to my job as principal. Writing the book, The Principal, certainly this podcast, the blogs, and it's invigorating. I have a tremendous passion for it, and I think it's important as a school leader, as an educator, to have something else, right? We have our families. We certainly have our number one responsibility in our job and, serving the community. But what is that passion? And I recommend that you continue to develop it. Whether it's writing, whether it's being an artist, whether it's being fitness. Some people do taxes outside of work. Whatever it is, I recommend you develop it because it also gives you some different perspective. I can't wait to hear some of the stories from JR of how he takes that world as a sports agent and brings it into his day, whether it was having a difficult conversation in a negotiation, whether his client went through a difficult time, like an injury, or even got cut, right? He can share that story with a professional athlete that he had a conversation with that got cut from a job, and maybe talk with a high schooler in his school that got cut from the team, right? And if it can happen to a professional, it certainly can happen to a high schooler. So I think it's important that we have those outside passions. What is yours? And I challenge you to develop that. I talk too much. I know that. I got a big mouth. I'm sorry. Let's welcome in John Rickert to the program. John, welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Andrew. I really appreciate it. I look forward to spending some time with you and your listeners. I think you left out a key element when you were describing yourself, and that is you are one heck of a speaker and a storyteller. I had the opportunity to hear you speak, and you can really capture an audience and really, as you said, get to people's passion of what drives them and what makes them tick, what makes them who they are.
Well, I appreciate that. And John and I connected up in Cooperstown. And whether it was through the principalship or the sports or whatever it was. But, yeah, we shared some stories, and it was a beautiful night up there in Cooperstown.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something else that I think you were alluding to when it comes to sports and education. And somebody had told me a long time ago that all coaching is teaching and all teaching is coaching. And, I never forgot that. And I carried that through my years as a teacher. And I carried that through my years as a principal, too. We get a great opportunity every single day to work with young kids and help shape young kids and guide them. And, boy, I'll tell you, there's no greater responsibility. You talk about what brings out passion. There's nothing I could think of that brings out passion more than that opportunity.
Well, and you're going to have that opportunity if you haven't started already. I know school is just kicking off. What year principal are you going into at Niskayuna, John?
Boy, I tell you, they go by quickly. I'm going into my 19th year as the building principal and my 25th year of working in the building. So, every September I treat it like it's New Year's Day. I say Happy New Year to people when they come in, and people probably think I'm crazy, which I probably am. But hey, it's exciting. Again, you welcome back. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of excitement, and there's a lot of hope for what's ahead for this school year. You really want to see the best for your kids. And, when you've been doing it as long as I have, and you've been in the community as long as and I know you've been in your community for quite a while too, you start to feel like these kids are your family, and you really want good things. You want the best opportunities for your kids, and you want to put forth just that consistent effort each day to bring out the best in everybody.
So 19 years, John, that's a long time in the same role. How do you continually, year after year, because I can feel the passion coming through the computer here and the microphone that you're geared up for the year. How do you do that year after year where you've already done it 18 other times? How is it still fresh for you?
Well, you talked about it in your introduction a little bit. I think you have to take care of your mind and take care of yourself. You got to take care of your body. I feel like you have to be in good physical shape to be a good leader, a good principal, a leader of kids. You have to know as you get older, you have to work smarter. I used to think, well, if I just work 18 hours a day, I've done a great job. And I've learned over the years that, you have to work smarter, not necessarily harder. And you have to know when you've hit your point where, you say, okay, I've done what I need to do today and I need to move on. And one of the things that I do every day that I find to be very helpful is when I get up, I make a list. First, I make it mentally, and then oftentimes I write it down. Is what I want to accomplish for that given day on the personal side, on the professional side. And, at the end of the day, you got to look back and reflect. Okay, when I woke up this morning, I said I was going to set out to do this. How did I do? And I think you have to spend a lot of time learning this as I got older and reflecting on, what you've done. There's going to be days where you do some great things and you have some successes, and those are great. And there's going to be days where, go your way. Experience those too. I mean, I think that's one thing in the longevity that I've been in. I've been through the highs and the lows. I've been through the days where, I feel like, wow, I really did some great things today. And I think a lot of self-reflecting is really good. You talked about getting in touch with outside passions. I mean, I'm a big fitness guy. I love to work out. I love to run, jump rope, lift weights. I still stay pretty active. I'm almost 50. I'm knocking on the door of 50, and I can still keep it pretty good in the gym. So I'm lucky and fortunate that I have my health. I think, the sports and the role that I get to play with pro athletes, I've been blessed. Now I've been doing that for 20 years, which not a lot of agents can last 20 years in the business. Not too many do, because it's such a competitive and cutthroat business. But I find that working with pro athletes gives me a lot of energy as well. And so I just try to really feed off of and build off of that energy that I get from being around kids, from being around athletes, being around my own family, creates energy. And I learned to try to separate myself from things when I feel like things are sapping my energy. And, that's not always possible because you can't always step out of every situation. But again, just trying to work smarter as I get older. It's not always easy. And, you can't avoid things. Like I always say, there's no other way around this. I have to go through it. I can't avoid it. And, that approach has also served me very well over the years.
John, there's so many things I want to ask you about the sports agent, but you mentioned about your physical fitness and taking care of yourself. Being someone that's as busy as you're a father, you have your wife there helping you at the house, but you mentioned your children. You have two boys, Timmy and Billy, teenage boys. When do you make that time to exercise? When is your time to get that done?
Well, I've changed it up a little bit over the years. There's some years where I got my workouts in real early, 5 a.m. And now I'm finding that I enjoy the evening workouts even. So I have a gym in my basement, which I'm able to utilize. And I do use the gym at school as well. You have to try to fit it in when it works best for you. A couple years ago, I felt like mornings were better. And now more recently, I like the evenings. And then I was able to incorporate my kids into the workouts, which even made it more fun. Of course, my oldest son is now away at school, but even today he was texting me, "Dad, what's the workout for today?" So, that was able to build a nice connection. My younger son, he enjoys beating me in the 5K race every year. And I know you and your father used to do some marathons together. So, my son, he always says, all right, he comes up with a bet every Thanksgiving and of course he's won the last two. So I better get training a little harder here. But, just making it fun and incorporating family into that.
Very cool. I dig that. And good for you for incorporating your boys. Get training for that next 5K. John, so curious about so many aspects about being a sports agent. Clearly you have a passion for your role as an educator. Tell me about that passion of being a sports agent and how the heck did you start?
Yeah, I started actually my roots as a coach. So I was a high school coach and I worked with some kids that were lucky enough to get some opportunities, and I helped them with their opportunities at college. And then through that experience, it opened the door for me to meet a lot of college athletes who were looking to go on. And I think the one thing that I really has carried me through all these years is my role as a mentor and an advocate for kids and for athletes. So in shaping that role through coaching and then through working in camps and that sort of thing, I got the opportunity to actually guide some kids. Initially, it was long shot opportunities, a workout for an arena team or a CFL open workout and that sort of thing. And then I made a connection with a gentleman in Denver who's still my partner today, Peter Schaefer, and he helped me to connect. I owe him a lot. He taught me the agent game. He taught me the NFL. He didn't hand it to me. He made me earn it. And I always appreciate the fact that he brought me in on some high level stuff very early in my agent career. So I learned the business side. I already had the mentor side and the coaching side and the athletic side. And then he brought me in and taught me the business side, which that's a whole nother avenue and arena. I mean, it takes you years I'm still learning things today, when it comes to business. And there's so many, especially in the agent world, there's so many pitfalls and there's so much competition and people are trying to take your clients and that sort of thing. So I was very lucky that in 2001, I signed an offensive lineman from Memphis who ended up being my first active NFL player. And he went on to start for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he started in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. So that really opened up my agent career. So now I wasn't just, the mentor or the consultant or the advisor. Now I'm really a full-fledged NFL agent at this point. I mean, now I'm at the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida with my dad, watching him play against the New England Patriots. And, you talk about memories and things that you'll never forget. And that's something that's real special to me. And then from there, because I did a good job with this young man and he was undrafted and guided him into where I did, and then eventually guided him to a contract extension. That's what really opened doors for me in my NFL career. And, I got advice from people, Andrew, all along the way saying, you're going to be a great agent. You don't need the education world. And I had advice from people in the education world saying, you have such a career ahead of you as a high school principal. You don't need the agent world. And I listened to it, but I never really felt like I had to make a choice. And I really chose to go down both roads in my life. And it was a tremendous sacrifice, not only on me and my time and, the amount of free time that I have. It was a tremendous sacrifice for my family as well, because, they spent many days and nights without me, constantly at meetings. I was constantly on the road. I was constantly at games. I was constantly at PTO meetings, dances. I mean, you know the life. And so you imagine having, the two demanding careers, which is really what I've had for the last 20 years, is two very demanding careers, but two very rewarding careers. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't see the value and the balance. It really helped bring balance to me in my life. I believe it made me a better leader and a better educator, and I believe it made me a better advocate for my players and a better mentor for my players.
John, you could just hear the passion. Certainly over the years as a principal, you learn what it takes to do a good job as principal. And you mentioned working well with that one client, that you did a good job. What does doing a good job as a sports agent mean? Like, what does that mean? That you got them the most amount of money, that you talk to them every day, that you got them the trade they wanted? What does doing a good job as an agent mean for the lay person?
Well, ironically enough, it's a lot about educating your client about the process they're about to go through. I had a real good handle on the process of coming out of college and transitioning to the NFL, and then the process of signing a pro contract, and the process of going through a training camp, and then the process of getting ready for your first NFL game, and then the process of making a decision when to play with the injury, when not to play with the injury. And really, there's no way that you can gain this type of knowledge without experience. You have to have the experience to go through it. I mean, I wish there was, you can't really read about it. I could sit here and describe scenarios to you and give you examples and that sort of thing. But really what makes you a good agent is just the experience and the respect that you earn from the teams over the years. That's another thing. When you start out, I found this kind of funny. It wasn't funny at the time, but you can't get anybody on the phone in the NFL, because they don't know you. And it's such a closed rank society that they don't really want to talk. When I say they, I mean the general managers and the scouts and people who work for the team. They don't really want to deal with you until you're established. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, it's almost like it's an industry. People ask me today, would I recommend somebody to go into it? I say not unless you're prepared to take a lot of lumps along the way, because there's just so many doors that you have to kick open to get there. I'm lucky enough to have been doing it 20 years to where I know all the GMs now and have had a relationship with them and done deals with them. And, I don't have a hard time if I want to call a GM or a scout and tell them about a player that I'm working with, because they know me and they've worked with me. So you got to have all of that to be good at it.
Good for you, man. It's so interesting. That famous movie, Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise, I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, my wife still says to this day that's the reason why I got into it. She says I watched it so much that I don't know. I mean, I definitely did. So maybe it did have an impact on me.
But is there 1% reality to that, or is it pretty close, or is it somewhere in the middle? It's a movie and it's Hollywood, but how much reality was in there?
Yeah, there definitely is a good degree of, especially the failures that he was going through and losing his position and then losing clients. I mean, that's a reality that you deal with. And then, dealing with a team that isn't necessarily excited about giving your player a big contract, and they'll think of every reason in the world why your player shouldn't get that contract. So all those parts of it were very real. I mean, there was some glamorization and sensationalized segments. Look, hey, I've had some great moments with my guys. I mean, I've had moments where guys have come out of the locker room with a game-winning interception ball and handed it to me. And, you remember stuff like that forever. I mean, that's exciting stuff, but it's a movie, and there's definitely some reality to it. Again, I think the challenges that it portrayed are very realistic.
Yeah. And if we have some live viewers here, if you are watching live, please go ahead and leave us a question or comment. It's not every day you get to talk to a professional sports agent, so it's pretty exciting. John, you're sharing a lot about both roles you play, but specifically as a sports agent, what are some things that you've learned over the years that have helped you be a high school principal? For example, being a college basketball official on my end, I got used to, learning how to deal with conflict, right? No matter what decision I made, I always had a coach that was angry, and I learned how to talk to that coach in a heated moment while the game went on. So what are some comparisons between those two passions that you have?
Well, I think both industries require you to communicate well. To communicate one-on-one, to communicate in small group settings, large group settings, to be able to get your message across in a quick moment. You don't have a lot of time when you're trying to talk to a prospective client, or if you're trying to talk to the PTO moms and you have to get a point across. You have to do it in a relatively quick fashion and a relatively compelling fashion. So there's some similarities there. Again, I think just the leadership that you have to show, you have to make in both roles, you have to make some tough decisions, and you can't second guess yourself. You have to go with the information that you have. You have to lean on in both roles, lean on your experience often when you're making a decision. And, in education, we always ask ourselves that age-old question, right? What's in the best interest of our kids? And as an agent, the question becomes, what's in the best interest of my client? So there's some similarity there. When you're making decisions with that as your framework, it makes it, you can stand on that. You can that's a hill you can die on when you're making decisions with that.
Yeah. And John, how much guidance do you give them off the field? We live in such a world of social media and people taking pictures, and a negative image can hurt somebody. I speak to my high school athletes about, we call it the headline test. What if your actions wound up on the headline of the paper tomorrow? What would that look like? Or what would your mom think if your mom found out what you were doing? You're dealing with grown men and women. How much do you talk to them about off the field and off the court stuff?
Yeah, quite a bit. And again, it's very similar to with my students, where I explain to them, listen, I've been through a lot of these situations that you're going through, right? I've been where you are, whether it's as a high school student, whether it's as a professional athlete. Although I never played professionally, I played the game, and I know what you're going through. And I know now from being in the industry, being an agent for so long, I know the distractions that you're dealing with off the field. You think that being a professional athlete is all about performing on the field, and it is. You also have to deal with quite a bit off the field in terms of having to manage this new social status, if you will, how to manage temptations, and how to I tell guys, hey, listen, the key to success is knowing how to survive success, because a lot of people make it, but it's very hard to maintain it. And you have to, once you get there, you have to adopt a series of principles that allow you to stay there. And you have to frame the person that you're comfortable with being. I tell guys, hey, don't feel like you have to go out and change now. I had a guy, he was the starting center for the Philadelphia Eagles. We just signed a $20 million extension. And I said to him, hey, where do you want to go out to dinner? And he said, Chili's. And I looked at him like, I thought maybe he would say, I don't know, the Ritz-Carlton or something like that. He said, I don't want to change who I am just because I have money now. I've spent all these years working to get to where I am. I'm not going to change who I am just because I got there. And, I never forgot that. And I think it's a good lesson.
That is a good lesson. And that's pretty exciting. John, beginning of the year for us, graduation, testing time, hiring time are all busy times for high school principals. When is your go time as a sports agent? And I know it varies from the season, but like let's say football. Is it after the season when contracts are expiring? Is it the start of the season? When is your go time?
Yeah, you got some key moments when you look at the year. I mean, certainly free agency is a big deal. That typically happens around March. Signing rookies when they finish with college, which usually happens sometime around January, and then getting guys ready for training camp. That usually happens sometime around July. I feel like I've been doing this so long that if you tell me what month it is, I can tell you what I have to accomplish that month, whether it's for school or for the agency, because I've been doing it so long. You just have to tell me what month it is on the calendar, and I'll tell you what the critical events are that month.
That's so cool. You need to start writing your book if you haven't already. We joked off air about my book, but you must have a million stories. It's incredible.
Hey, I'll tell you this. I'm very unsolicited, Andrew. When I get to my desk in the morning, your book is sitting there right there. And I always try to find something in there to get my day started because there's so much in there. You just need to take a little piece of it. You don't even have to go through it all. And it just gets you going in the right mind frame. So I really appreciate you giving me that copy.
Cool, man. And we had a great chance to connect in Cooperstown. And John, we were there with ESSA, right? The Empire State School Administrators Group. And you even have a leadership role in that group. Why don't you tell me what the work that you're doing with ESSA and what that group does for New York administrators?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about that work as well. I get the opportunity to represent the interests of public school administrators in my region, the Capital District. I'm the regional president. We work on bringing our agenda to state ed. We meet with the commissioner once a month. We help give guidance to the different units throughout our region when it comes to their contracts, when it comes to their day-to-day work. We put on professional development workshops. We brought in some tremendous speakers and authors to work with our principals. So it's just exciting to, I feel like I'm giving back to a profession that's been so great to me. And so I really do enjoy that work and the collegiality of getting to talk with administrators from around the area and listen to what they're dealing with. And of course, I'm sure you know this, every district has its own unique nuances that you're going to deal with. What I deal with in Niskayuna may not necessarily match what they're dealing with in Schenectady, but we still have that common link of being school leaders and dealing with challenges that come with being a school leader.
Yeah. John, you mentioned about the amount of events that you go to as a high school principal and dances and homecoming and board meetings. I'm heading back to a board meeting as soon as we're done with the show.
There you go.
How about the travel? Like how often do you go to the games? Like if the guy is texting you like, hey man, I need to see you to go over some stuff. Like, are you on a plane Saturday to get to the game? Like how do you balance the travel?
So I'm lucky that I have a group of people that work under me that also work with all my players. So they typically also report to their games and that kind of thing. What I usually do is I give my guys my schedule at the start of the season and say, these are the games that I'll be at. And they appreciate that. They look forward to it. They like to see you. I mean, yeah, there are times when, you'll get that text on a Friday night saying, my ankle's bothering me. The trainer thinks I should go. What do you think? And I've been through that situation too. And that's a delicate balance too, because, the team trainer is an employee of the team. So of course he wants the player on the field, but your role is to look at the situation realistically and protect your player. I've sent guys to the doctor on Saturday morning just to get another opinion before we send them out to the field Sunday.
Smart. Absolutely. Negotiations, right? That's something that you do for your players. Are you involved with your unit at school? And is that something that, again, you've learned from your role as an agent that you help your school as well in terms of negotiating your own personal contract?
Yeah, it absolutely is. So I'm the negotiator for our bargaining unit. I've served as president, but I'm not doing that now. I like having, getting other people the chance to do it. But I've been a part of each contract ever since I've been there. And, I always feel like whether you're negotiating a contract as a principal or you're negotiating for a professional athlete, you just want to be treated fairly. And that's a concept that I really hammer home, whether I'm dealing with the team or the district or the attorneys or what have you, is listen, here are the comparables. Here's what a running back is getting paid, around the league for the type of work that this player is putting up. Here's what Other principals are getting paid around the state for the type of work and commitment they have to do. Let's just figure out a way to bridge gaps and treat each other fairly. And I think if you operate, with that concept, you earn a lot of respect. I'm not a take it or leave it guy in negotiations. I don't think that wins with anybody. I like to overwhelm you with facts and statistics. I'm a numbers guy. I've even had in negotiating for school, I've even had them say to me, you know what, you're right, but we just can't do that. And hey, if you give me acknowledgement I'm right, I'll take that. But it's about treating people fairly.
Yeah, yeah. John, this is great. You have so much experience in both areas, and it's great to talk to someone that's, like you've said, been doing it as long as you can. But you're passionate, man. You can feel and hear the passion in what you're saying. Kudos to you, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. I work really hard, and like I said, it's at times it's a big sacrifice for my family, and it's really made up, my professional career. So it's, when you're talking about your career, how can you not be excited?
Yeah. John, again, I lived a life as a college basketball referee, and I had a portion of people that loved that I did that, and they saw me on TV, and they thought it was great for our school and community, especially if they mentioned my school, things like that. And then I had a portion of people that said it takes away from his job.
Right.
How do you manage those type of comments from people and maybe naysayers to say, hey, this guy, his mind is divided on this work here? What is your answer to that question?
I'll tell you, early in my career, it really hurt me to hear that type of criticism. And it took me a long time to process that and understand that people have a right to frame their opinions about you. And you can't sit there and try to convince them they're wrong, or, what it is you do. And I've learned over the years to just put my record on the table and say, hey, listen, if you think that I don't care about this school or our kids, or come follow me around for a little while and then, see what you think. And it's natural for people to doubt or to question, or, like even my own wife said, hey, if early in my career, she said, if our kid's principal was doing something like this, I'd probably wonder too, what the heck is going on, so I find it to be very normal. I think some of the criticism is unfair, but hey, let's be honest, when you're in the roles that we're in, you are wide open to criticism in every single thing you do. Even if I wasn't an ACE, even if I was an independent researcher for NASA or something like that, they would still be questioning, well, why is he doing that? Isn't being the principal enough? And I think you talked about it in the opening. I think everybody has to decide and frame for themselves how they're going to define what it is they do, how they're going to spend their time. And as long as it works for you and your family, that's really what counts. I mean, you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I doing the job for my kids and my district and the community that I live in? Am I doing, the best I can? And, I would tell community members, hey, listen, the day you don't see me in here working hard for you and for the kids, let me know. Give me a call, because, you're not going to see that. I mean, I don't take days off. I don't believe in days off. Even when I'm off, I'm always working. So, it's something that, it's not fun, but I tell every single educational leader, if you're going to be in this field, you are going to deal with serious criticism. You're going to have a board president that doesn't like you. You're going to have a superintendent that doesn't like you. You're going to have a group of parents that don't like you. You're going to have a PTO president that doesn't like you. People are not going to like you. And that unfortunately, that's just part of life. There's just no way around that. And the more you come to, the sooner you come to grips with that and learn how to work through that situation, instead of trying to convince them that I've stopped trying to convince people they're wrong. When somebody wants to tell me something, I listen to them. Even if they say to me, you're the worst principal we've ever had and you don't know what you're doing, I listen to them, because they obviously, there's a reason why they feel that way. And maybe I can take something or learn something from their viewpoint to help shape and frame, what I do. A couple years ago, I had a gentleman in the community that was questioning the success of our students as they graduated, and were they getting into the right schools. And, instead of arguing and saying, what are you talking about? I mean, I went and I did a lot of research, and I looked at it for myself. And I said, okay, let me look at our school and our graduates and the level of success. And, after I finished that project, I came to my own conclusion. So it was good that person, gave me that mindset to think about.
Mm-hmm. Well, they must have a great memory because the worst principal we've ever had. You've been there 19 years. You mean they remember the
Yeah,
guy before you?
yeah, he's actually a good friend of mine. He was one of my mentors in my early years too. So yeah, nah, and he still comes around. And we've only had 6 principals in the whole history of the school. So
Wow. Wow. Well, you hear people not being in those roles too long. So kudos to you for giving so much to that community. And yeah, when you're in a place a long time, I'm 15 years in Port Jervis, right? You those kids and those people. It was nice to be back with the teachers today.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I got to get rolling to the school board meeting, but we have some time for rapid fire, John. I know you used to hardcore negotiations, but these are rapid fire questions. All right.
All right, go ahead.
Here we go. Last book you read.
Educated by Westover.
Okay. Last movie.
It's a memoir about a young lady that had overcome a lot in her life to get to where she was.
Last movie you saw.
Oh man, Rocky yesterday, the Rocky Marathon.
Oh man. Okay.
My Italian roots are still there, you know.
I can hear it. Favorite place to travel?
I like going back to Jersey, where I'm from, and just visiting the beach, the shoreline, and seeing that. Always feel like it's a special trip for me when I go back there.
Just read Bruce Springsteen's book there. I would definitely recommend it. Great stories from Asbury Park.
Asbury Park, yep.
Greatest challenge in your work as a high school principal?
I think just learning to deal with the changes, not necessarily the changes in the staff or not necessarily the changes in the kids, but things are going to change. And, you have to learn in education that you can't be stagnant and you have to change too. So just because something worked one year, you can't get too, you can't get too set in that and think that you can't, I think you have to be able to adjust to change. That's probably one of the greatest challenges.
A pet peeve of yours, something that gets under your skin?
I hate when people are late. It makes me mad when I'm late. I feel like if we call a meeting at 7, people should really be there at 7. I mean, look, things come up, right? If you're that one time out of 100 you're late, I can live with that. But I just don't like people that think, hey, it's okay to stroll in at 5 after or 10 after.
You're wasting people's time. It's in the book, right? Call ahead if you're going to be
yes,
late.
It is.
Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life.
Oh. Best purchase under $100, huh? Man, that's a tough one.
We could give you a pad.
I mean, I would say a cell phone, but they tend to run a little more than $100 these days.
You're under $100 a month with those payments.
Yeah, no question. I don't know. That's a hard question. I find a lot of I collect baseball cards, and so I find a lot of inner peace in that, and I enjoy that, and I go through them, and I probably spend more time with them just to relax. So I'll probably say one of my baseball cards.
Okay. Something that J.R. Rickert that people don't know about.
I have a real sentimental side. Not a lot of people see that in me, and they get surprised. I'm one of those guys who like looks at a situation and look. I have like a soft spot for people that overcome things, underdog. Like I have a lot of sentimental like keepsakes, and remember, I keep a lot of little things. And people, like my wife will say, "What the heck are you keeping that for?" And I said, "Well, that was a rock from the playground where I scored my first basket in when I was 9." That kind of thing.
That's why you were watching Rocky yesterday.
That's right.
If you had a billboard and you could put a message on it, what would that message be?
Never give up, always believe, and keep moving forward.
I'm digging it. What's been a personal, something that's been a hurdle for you?
I think learning how to deal with the public side of education. There's a political side to it. And, when I first got into it, I didn't really know and understand that and the impact of that. So I think learning how to survive in the political climate that we have to survive in as school leaders, I think that was a hurdle for me that I've learned how to jump over.
A short-term goal for you, 3 to 5 months. It either could be professional or personal.
Man, I just want to continue to find balance. I feel like there's so many times in my life where I'm too I won't say focused, but too consumed by the current situation. I'm too consumed with worrying about this or worrying about that. I just want to learn how to work on balance, and I've been working on that. And I definitely have times when I'm great at it, and I have times where I'm not so good at it. So get more consistent with the balance.
We're going to ask your wife that question as well. How's your balance? How about a long-term goal, 3 to 5 years?
Just to be a great dad, continue to make a difference to my kids. Be a great husband. Continue to transition to work as I work towards the next things in my life, whatever they might be. And just I think to always not to lose sight of why I got into the things I got into in the first place, and just to stay connected and stay current, stay relevant.
Very cool. John, how can people get in touch with you? You did an amazing job on the program today. Can you share a website or your social medias so people can
Yeah, sure. So if it's a sports related question, I mean, for obvious reasons, I keep stuff separate. My sports email is jr@agentjr.com. My school site, if you have a question on education, it's jrickert, Rickert, at niskischools.org. That's my district, NISKYSCHOOLS. And then on the sports side, I have the Twitter page, which I actually do some education stuff on that too. And that's just at JR Rickert. And Instagram is at Agent JR.
Very cool. And kudos for you for separating those things. I know sometimes they can be dicey if they're crossing over. So kudos to you. John, you really dropped a lot of knowledge today. I appreciate you making time in your busy schedule, opening school here. Last question, you said a lot of great quotes today, but do you have one, like a famous quote that sits with you?
It's a good question. I watched Vinny Pazienza's movie, and he says something in there, and I never forgot it. He was talking about what was the biggest lie he was ever told, and he said, "Well, it's not that easy." And the interviewer said, "What do you mean it's not that easy?" And he said, "No, that's the biggest lie I was ever told." And the interviewer went on to say, "Well, you can explain that. What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, that's how they get you to give up." So I always remember, hey, that's don't get caught up in stuff, and don't let people talk you into giving up.
Very cool. This was J.R. Rickert, everyone, high school principal and sports agent here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. John, best of luck. Have a great year. And let's definitely keep in touch during the year.
Okay, that sounds great, Andrew. Thank you. Good luck.
Cue this music up here and see if we get this going again here. Get this going. J.R. Rickert, everyone. Again, reach out on Twitter. Check out the work he's doing. Signing off here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Thanks, everyone.